got out the way.
Yeah. Ready to do it? Ready to do a podcast?
No.
Ready to have
Do it tomorrow.
Ready to have
Yeah, so I was just going to introduce it by just saying how we met. We met at the Consciousness Horizon conference together, where you done a talk on the Age of the Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And you just came to Liverpool. So did you move to Liverpool
First day.
Yeah.
I was blessed to be at such an event. Like,
Yeah.
it's everything just fell into place really. Like, being from Essex and stuff like that. Like, you don't get any of that. And then
Yeah.
the first day I come, it's the perfect event that can really. It kind of just like cemented what this journey in Liverpool would be like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And obviously you done the talk there, the Age of the Awakening.
Yeah, I did.
And
Yeah,
that went well.
yeah.
Really good at
It was
the time.
good. I really enjoyed that evening actually.
So I was just going to move on to our individual history and just how we came to where we are at the moment in our lives, and like where we're at in general, and our direction.
Go on, Lewis. You can start.
So about well, I don't know where to begin. Do you mean like about my life?
Well, yeah, your journey, your path to where you are now. We're in the Inner Guru, and how did you get here, basically?
Well, I'll have to condense it because obviously I'm in the process of writing a book, so it's a big journey, you know what I
Okay.
mean? But from where I was basically suffering with very poor health,
Yeah.
mental health problems like anxiety, depression, drug problems,
Yeah.
being disconnected from my path really,
Yeah.
and then following a path of self-healing, going to the Amazon, having several adventures out there,
Yeah.
working with plant medicines.
How did that come into your life, knowing about the Amazon and the plant medicines and stuff like that?
So it just started off with a curiosity really,
Yeah.
and also knowing that I was on the wrong path, and there was a few situations that I was like little signs, like to say, like
Little
to
nudges.
make changes,
Yeah.
make changes, or else. Yeah, it wasn't really a choice.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was a choice anyway, and I was very drawn towards plant medicines. First experience with DMT in 2010
Yeah.
was a big one for me. It's like a spiritual connection with something other than what I was experiencing in this reality.
A breakthrough experience.
A breakthrough experience with like divine beings, spirit guides there waiting for me.
Yeah.
Then that was like a moment of remembering
Yeah.
who I truly was. A part of me that was like just in awe of that experience that I had for a good few months afterwards, and then but still having like health problems and things like that, and then I was trying ayahuasca, and then some experience that I had there where I was like shown very clearly what I was going to be doing,
Yeah.
like not like exactly what I'm doing now with the Inner Guru, but I was shown that I was going to help people in some way. And at the time I just didn't even have any kind of idea how that was going to turn out.
Yeah.
It was like a shock to me because I just never thought. I was very interested in music and things like that. That was always what I felt was like. I was very inspired by that.
Be doing,
but I didn't know I was ever going to be like helping people.
Yeah.
Like it's a deeper calling kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I didn't think about shamanism. I always was very interested in all the states of consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt I was very, like, even when it comes to like party drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
I was always very. I seen things in a different way than other
The way that
people
they
did.
work and stuff.
Yeah, I
that's
was
it,
very fascinated with how they worked on the mind and
Yeah.
things like that. So then that led me towards doing ayahuasca.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am cutting to the chase here, like,
I was going to
I'm
say,
not
because
going-
I mean, as far as Amazon journeys go
Yeah.
for Awakening, yours is kind of like on the exponential scale.
Yeah, so there was a series of other events leading up to going to the Amazon. There was a try in Cambo, going to Portugal and doing like ayahuasca retreats, working with other medicines with shamans from Mexico and things like that, doing
Yeah.
peyote ceremonies and
How did you
San
find
Pedro.
the PAC?
The first time I did peyote, it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Like some of the experiences that I was having, like connecting with like spirit guides and like higher beings of like light and like eagles and there was spirit. It was actually, peyote was the first time that I ever had an experience with spirits that weren't from like other. It didn't feel like they were from other dimensions. Like whereas when I did DMT and ayahuasca, it was all very extraterrestrial. Whereas when I was doing the peyote ceremonies in Portugal, I actually had experiences where I was seeing spirits.
Yeah.
Walking, you know, with my eyes open, walking into the space where they were doing prayers into the fire. Because the Native Americans do these prayers. It's a ceremony that's been done for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I was able to see these like spirits walking in, and it was like children spirits walking in, and they were putting prayers into the fire as well.
So it's like what they actually communicate with was present.
Yeah, it wasn't even like they were communicating with these spirits. It was almost like these spirits were coming to join in the
They were
ceremony.
always there, kind of thing. And
It's like they've done these ceremonies before. These spirits, and it was like the ancestors of the people that do these ceremonies would come in, and I was seeing that, but nobody else was seeing that. I was like, you know, can you look at these people? And I was like, no, I can't see. I was like, I can't see these people walking. And they were walking past me. I remember first sitting there thinking, oh, this is quite boring actually, because I was tired. I'd been tired because I've been doing a lot of other ceremonies and things like that during the time I was there. I was like, oh, I don't know, because you have to sit up all night.
Yeah.
It's very hard, you know. I found I was quite new on the journey. Then I wasn't used to meditating.
Did you have to fast or anything beforehand?
Yeah, there was fasting beforehand. But it was difficult. I found it challenging.
Yeah.
At first to sit there, and then all of a sudden I just seen this thing walk past me. I was like, and it was like a spirit walking through, and he was just like putting things of cedar in the fire, like, and it was just happening all night, and it was just like, wow, I just couldn't believe it. And some of it, like, it was an amazing experience that I had, and not many other people that were there were having visions.
Yeah.
So for me, every time I was doing these ceremonies, I was having like these profound visions. Also, while I was there, I did this other ceremony called San Pedro. And we did what was called a long dance. So basically what we do is we create a banner, and this is in the daytime, and we paint a picture of what it is that we want to welcome into our lives and what it is that we want to welcome into the world. And everybody does a banner, and they put it around the outside of this arena, like which is like basically like a fire in the middle, and almost like a little dirt path around the outside. There was like hay, bits of hay on the floor, and then there's like this like little canopy on top, but with a hole in the middle so the flames and the smoke can get through. But it was outside in the countryside in Portugal. It was nice weather. So anyway, what we do is we then dance. We take the San Pedro, and then we dance around the fire for 4 hours, anchoring in the energies of the intention into the lower world, the shamanic lower worlds. And then we dance for 4 hours going into the higher worlds. But the experience I had when I was there was just phenomenal. Like for me, I was still transitioning from this old life, and I was just like having these experiences with like spirit and like connecting with earth and things. I was like, wow,
completely the opposite of what you were
You threw yourself out there completely.
Yeah, and I went into this world that just blew me away. It was just magical, because I started dancing around the fire. And anti-clockwise the first part of it, and I was like tired at first. The medicine hadn't kicked in yet, but I had this little rattle, and I was like I had my eyes closed, and I just went into a trance. And I was like I was in this trance. Next thing, I was dancing in this other world with these animal spirits, and there was this a scorpion that I was dancing with this scorpion. Next thing, this scorpion decides to come in me, and I became the scorpion. And then I was like, I had all this power, and my body was moving like a scorpion, and my hands went like pincers.
Wow. And
like I was holding the rattle like that, because I was like, what is going on?
That's a trip and a half.
And it's just like within like 15-20 minutes of taking it, so like it hadn't even properly kicked in yet. It takes hours for it to kick in. I was like, wow, I can do this just by changing the frequency and getting into a trance state, and I was channeling being, you know, like these animals, but then it made sense, because the lower worlds is where the animal spirits reside. And then when we went the other direction, the eagle came, and I was like, and then the eagle bothered me, and I was flying around the arena. I had my eyes closed, I was running backwards, and I wasn't bumping into anybody that was dancing around. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
And what were you seeing then? Were you seeing the eagle? Were you embodying the eagle?
Embodying it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just had all this power, my whole body was vibrating with it. But what happened is, which just blew me away, like in the morning, because there's children at the at the place.
Yeah.
And in the morning, because we danced until the sun came up, the children came down and they come into the dance arena, and the energy was that strong in the dance arena that they were like, whoa, overwhelmed, and like the children were like having to like step outside because it was too.
They could
Too
feel
strong.
Energy was
They
too
were
intense
the
for them.
Yeah.
And I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I was like, this is like it was like Harry Potter world, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, there really is magic.
It really is magic.
Yeah, and also when I looked at the fire on the inside of the fire, it was spinning in a vortex anti-clockwise, and the outside of the fire was spinning clockwise.
Wow.
And it was going, and you could see the spirals of smoke going up. Now I don't even know if that was just the San Pedro and that's what I was seeing, but that's what I was experiencing. And other people did see that as well. People pointed out, like, look at that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was an.
And this was all before
That was
ayahuasca.
before. Yeah, that was before. I don't know. I'd done ayahuasca,
All right.
but I hadn't been to the Amazon at that point.
Yeah.
But it was after that I'd I had a strong calling to go.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to go. But the fact that all of my experiences that I'd had leading up to that moment,
Yeah.
there was a few that I had, because I'd done quite a few ayahuasca ceremonies leading up to going to the Amazon, and they were all amazing.
Yeah.
Like, there was some moments where I was like, you know, healing and letting go of all things,
Yeah.
but there was nothing negative
Yeah.
about it. It was just pure amazing, like, experiences, you know, profound, like, visions, and
Yeah.
a lot of people that I spoke to envied me quite a bit, because they were like, you know, because they're like, wow, you have all these
They've gone
amazing,
through all these torturous
yeah, and I have all these
healing
amazing
processes.
yeah, and I have all
Yours
these
has always been bliss.
amazing experiences.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the Amazon, I'm going to like, because I just felt that I was going to learn it, you know, to do it. And I just had a call that I wanted to learn about it. It was my path. I knew it was my path.
Yeah.
I even had a dream when I was going, like, a couple of months before I went to the Amazon, and this shaman it was the shaman that I was going to see.
Yeah.
He came in the
It was
dream.
the same, and then when you turned
It
up,
was the same. Yeah, it was the same. It was the same guy.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, this is great. No, this is just perfect. It was like the perfect, perfect thing. But then when I got there, it was a completely different story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was not how
It wasn't
how I envisioned. It wasn't how I.
Was that due to selecting the place incorrectly? Was it due to the actual place that you went to, or?
Well, saying that, if I'd said that after I came back, then I'd probably say yeah. Say that now, I'd say no. I'd say that it was meant to be.
It was
Yeah,
perfect.
it was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectly imperfect.
You had those famous last words, didn't you? You said, "Show me what I need to see."
Oh, exactly. So my intention going there was to the medicine, to you know, what, you know,
Whatever it
spirit,
is.
whatever it is that I'm connecting with. Show me whatever it is that I need to know to be able to fulfill my path. And I was like, and then I just kind of got this like little, okay, you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure.
Because up until then, sorry, your experiences have all been like extremely
Super.
positive.
Yeah.
So you've gone in there thinking it's invincible. Like this is only a good path.
Yeah, of course. And then naively thinking that everybody who was there was all going to be wanting the best for. I seen the good.
intentions,
Yeah, and it turned out that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
They were like very manipulative. So there was so some of the experience. Well, one of the first experiences I had when I was there. Was I sat down in the ceremony and I was like all happy and made up. I got to the Amazon doing my journals and all, like, you know, just loving the
Embracing it.
adventure.
Yeah.
And then there was only me and somebody else, and there was a girl there. She's quite young, and they'd been there for a couple of days before I got there, and they were in the ceremony, and there was these two elderly shamans that one was the guy that I'd seen in my dream, and the other one was an elderly lady who was she was in her 80s, but they were old, and I thought, oh, that's good, you know, elder wisdom and all that. It's going to be, you know, perfect, you know.
A nice guiding support. Someone around you.
Yeah, of course.
But I didn't really get to speak to them very much before the ceremonies anyway. I'm not going to go into the whole story because it's too long, but it was the first experience that I had that I felt really uneasy in the ceremony.
Yeah.
I thought something just doesn't feel right, but I was still in a good place myself, and I felt like I held myself quite well in the first ceremony, but it was strong, and but what I witnessed was this girl that was in the ceremony. She was just having the most awful time. Like screaming, going. She was like Spanish, and she was going fuego, fuego, fuego. All she was experiencing was fire. And she was saying about like there was rats and stuff like that. She was saying, but she ended up locking herself in the toilet. Yeah. Screaming, and like you just heard her banging, like, in the toilet all night, like this little like wooden hut. And I was thinking, Jesus, I thought, aren't they like gonna go out and like check on her? And they didn't. And I found that the Icaros that they were singing, they didn't feel very like healing or anything. It was just like made me feel a bit
you could sense the energy of the music.
It wasn't nice.
Wasn't gentle.
No, it was like, but it wasn't like in a way that was like healing. It was like I felt like I was trying to block it out. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And then I thought something. I don't know. I had an intuitive sensation in my body that something wasn't right. But at the same time, I was just too keen to see how it went, because
I suppose you were there and you drank the medicine by that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I got through that night. It wasn't a very nice experience. There was some moments during it where there was a lot of like snakes and things like that, and I was facing there was a lot of fear coming up for me. Yeah. And I was thought, okay, well, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to face my fears. There was one point where like these snakes came and they were like crawling. I could feel it. Felt like the snakes from all around the jungle were coming to me.
Wow.
It felt like they were all coming to get me. Wow. So I was like, oh, and then I just thought, oh, this is just like, you know, part of it. And face my fears. It was terrifying because I could feel them, like, and hear them, like, coming closer and closer. And at one point, I could actually feel them crawling all up my legs.
No way.
And then it was like they went inside me. Yeah. The snakes like went inside my body. I could feel them inside my body, and I was just like, oh.
But you weren't getting any kind of realizations. There was no revelation coming with it. It was just sensation.
No, not really. Yeah, it was just sensation. And I was seeing like some like, creepy, weird stuff and that as well. And I thought nothing of that anyway. But it spooked me out a little bit with this girl because she ended up like running off and didn't come back. Oh. And I thought, well, anything could happen to her. Yeah. And anyway, the next day after the ceremony, the police turned up with machine guns and stuff, and like I was like, whoa, it's like the first day, and they came into my hut, started searching my bags and all that, looking for weed. Which is it's
the irony.
I know, because it's an ayahuasca machine. There's ayahuasca and stuff there. They knew that was there, but it's not illegal. So weed is. So they were looking in my bag for weed, and I, you know, if I'd got caught with it. In trouble.
Go straight to the scally, you know.
but like, you know, they were asking questions about, oh, you know, what was this girl, you know, what was going on and all that. And she's saying that the shamans, you know, did this, you know, messed her up and all this, like, and I was like, oh. You know, she said, what was the experience? I just said she was like screaming and stuff like that. You know, and just got left.
You've seen it before.
Yeah. Seen it before. But I did have some other experience. I can't go into all of it because we will be here all night. But there was an experience that I had before the like epically bad one that I had, where there was. So it was the second ceremony that I had, where I was experiencing like just I was being shown things about creation and like the universe and like. I've seen the images of like Jesus Christ and like, you know, all of this deeply religious kind of like information and visions, and like I was seeing Christ of the cross and all that. I think that's what I think it was. And it was like I was getting this weird like voices saying, "You're Jesus Christ," and all that, and I was like, oh no.
A lot of people go through when they go through an awakening. They go through that, don't they?
Well, I heard that. Luckily, I'd heard that before, so I was like, nah. I was like, and actually, a part of me was really terrified because I was thinking, oh shit, what if what if I am?
Yeah.
I thought like, oh, I don't
You're
want.
responsible for so
yeah,
much.
it's
Yeah, I
such a
didn't-
messiah complex.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I didn't
like-
want that though.
Yeah, it's a big burden.
This is
isn't
the
it?
thing. Like some people would
I had to carry
really,
that
some
constant.
people would really like
Oh
that.
yeah.
But for me, it was the opposite. I was like, that was my a big fear of mine. Actually, I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible
I
for
think
myself. Never
that's
mind.
why it's shared out across everyone, isn't it? And
Well,
Yeah.
the realization comes through that you are God because you are God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's collectively you are
Right.
God collectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what some people don't realise. And when they get that realisation that they're God, they don't realise
Yeah.
that everyone else in the team
And
is
that's,
Exactly.
that's why you get it. It's like you're activating a level of consciousness that is like Christ consciousness, Krishna, Muhammad, Moses, like all
Yeah.
these archetypes are representing a state that we can all get to,
Yeah.
and how we should live our lives. They're basically
yeah.
role models.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are. They are role models, and it's like you know, we take on the you know the collective the quantum abilities of certain archetypes as well. You know, as you know, what I'm doing now is I'm a healer.
Yeah.
So, well, Jesus Christ was a healer. So like, I'm not comparing myself in any way whatsoever.
Sure,
but yeah. Well, I don't like that idea. You know, I don't like that dogma and that idea about it. But you know, it was kind of like this is talent. There's a cat coming through that this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be like changing the world and all this. So I was like, oof. Nah, I was in real denial. Like,
no, thanks.
I was like, I didn't like that, but it was kind of shocked me a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is gonna get serious. This like, you know,
Yeah.
this.
Well, you know what happened to Jesus Christ, so I know what's going to happen to Lewis.
Well, and
It's
you know,
coming.
and there were these like, you know, and every time I was doing the ceremonies, all these like big snakes were kept coming inside of me, and like.
That's a common one with the snakes, isn't it? A lot
Yeah.
of people get the snakes.
I didn't like it, and then but it was strange because in between the ceremonies, I could feel the snakes inside me, like not even in the ceremonies, I could feel like snakes inside me,
Wow.
like in my body and stuff, like going, like crawling, like it's like there's something crawl, in
Yeah.
between, like you know in the daytime and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was stuck. It was
No,
still
it wasn't
present.
stuck. It was like it was inside of me.
As in, it's
moving
still
around.
present, it's-
like something had got in me.
Yeah.
But it was bizarre anyway. But then on the third ceremony that I did, something was just like the energy that day was weird. It was weird. Like there was another couple that were there, and they were like in this weird energy as well, like all quite fearful, and like the shamans they were like acting like a bit weird.
So there was something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it felt like I don't know, something had come over the place.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. It was like a spiritual like darkness.
Yeah. Okay.
And then like I just had a really bad feeling about the ceremony.
Yeah.
And then I just did it. I was there, and I just
Can't exactly go home, can
No, I'm not that type of person. Do you know what I mean? If I'm still going to do something, I'll do it. I'll see it through.
Yeah.
And then within like 5-10 minutes of me drinking the medicine, it was like something come out of the sky and I was like being struck by a bolt of lightning, and I was like, and I was like froth coming out of my mouth and stuff, and like I was convulsing.
Oh my god.
And I was like, I just felt my brain, like something had got in my brain, like electric, like currents, voltages going through my brain, and it was like within first 5-10 minutes, and I thought, like I've had it's like a bad, when you think a trip's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It was at that moment I thought this is bad.
This is the one. This is the one that
bad trip.
It was
like.
inevitable that you'd had so many blissful experiences that you were almost accumulating a really bad one.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, but it was like that experience. Like it was just all these like evil spirits like came, and they were just in the space. But it was like the shamans that were like singing it. They were almost like it looked to me like they were a bit upset. Like it felt like there was a little bit of compassion there.
Yeah.
But they just like
allowed it, complicit.
Like it's like
that's how it goes, kind of thing.
They allowed it.
That way, yeah.
They allowed it.
Yeah.
to
Which
happen.
isn't the correct role of the shaman, is it really?
No, because they could have stopped that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think they were just like, it is what it is, and kind of like they just left me, and I was just begging for help, please, like, you know, I need some fucking comfort or reassurance here because this is bad. Like, and I was like saying this is bad, and the other people in this ceremony were like shitting themselves because I was like in a bad way, like fucking terrified, you know, like because of what was going on, and I was just like, oh, like my whole, I just couldn't stop like convulsing and that, and like I was lying on the floor, and then I was just like in the image, it started getting like really strong, but really dark. Yeah. And then it was like there were these voices in my head saying, like whispers saying, you think you're a light worker, but the evil's won. Evil's won, and there's nothing that you can do about it. It's over. It's over for you. Wow. And all this. So it was like fuck, like, and there was like I was hearing in my in my head that I was never ever gonna come back from this. Like this is like, and I was
your light had been stolen.
Yeah, my light had been stolen, had been taken away, and that like my mind was saying that even if I did, my mind was like, you're never ever gonna recover from it. Even if you get through this alive,
come back through physically.
It is such a long-term damage.
It was trauma beyond anything that I've ever experienced before in my life. It was just the most traumatic experience that I could ever. I wouldn't wish it on. I was thinking at that time, I wouldn't wish this experience on anybody. Yeah. Like that's how bad it was, and there was like, I was getting these like, there's like a story was like playing out, like, and then I could see the shamans were like, it was like a funeral. Yeah. It was like they were setting up a funeral. Wow. And like, and then they were like the songs they were singing. I could see them. They were like doing something with the candles and that, and they were like, it was like they were preparing for me to die. Wow. And I was like,
was that what you was experiencing or seeing?
That's what I was experiencing in my mind. I wasn't like, couldn't see that that's what was going on, but that's what was happening in this experience. Yeah. And after like an hour or so, I don't know what the time just went. Yeah. It felt like I was like, well, because the torture that I was in, it was like my mind was just going through this torture. It was like repeating thoughts over and over and over and over again. And then it was, the next part of it was like, now when your body's finished wriggling and like you run out of energy, you're just going to die. Yeah. And I thought, I was at that moment. I was grateful. I was grateful. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to die.
Wow. And so you surrendered to death.
I surrendered. Yeah. I surrendered to death. Yeah. Yeah. At that point, I was like, okay. Yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready to die. Yeah. But then it was showing me like images of all my family and friends all upset.
Oh yeah.
Because like, and they were like, oh, he's gone and he's took it too far. He's gone to the Amazon. He's gone and done this and. Now he's died, and but like it was showing me them having to come to visit me and stuff like that. But then it was like, no, you're not gonna die. So I was like, oh my god, it's like you're just gonna be insane forever.
Like a drama.
That's what it was like. I was like, oh, I just want to die now, and it was like, no, you're not gonna die. So it was just torture. Yeah. And then it was like it was showing me like all these like, like. People who've been possessed. Yeah. That's what it felt like. I've been possessed, and like how they treat people who've been possessed. Yeah. And like I was just like this crazy creature in the Amazon that like where like people come and like look at and laugh and stuff like that, and it was like, and it was like all these evil spirits and that were like coming out of everywhere, and they were just like laughing and like, it was torture. So then it got to the point where I was like, no, I'm going to die again now. And I was like, wriggling still. And I thought, no, this is it. I'm actually dying. I can feel myself leaving my body. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going. So then I left my body. And I was like, I felt like a little bit of peace. But then the story played out again. No, you're not going to just die. Yeah. Your soul is going to be tortured for eternity. So it was like, fucking, I could just see myself going around. It felt like I was in hell. Yeah. For eons and eons and eons and eons. It felt while I was there, it just felt like it was the time. It just because I'd left, I couldn't see anything that was going around. Then it was just I was in this other. I was like I died. I died. It was like there was nothing else. It was just infinite, but like the abyss. Yeah. And there was not. I didn't. I existed, but only a fragment of me. Yeah. And that fragment of me was being tortured constantly over and over, and then I had like this image of like the earth, and the earth went on fire. And everybody on the Earth died.
Yeah.
Everybody on the Earth died, and then the Earth died.
Okay.
So the Earth, like, it was like apocalypse, but apocalypse of the Earth as well.
Yeah.
And
so you were the only point of consciousness.
Yeah, there was only no other point of
Just
consciousness. It was just me alone, like alone in the abyss. And then, so the Earth was destroyed, and then it showed me all the other planets, everything that ever existed from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So from the beginning of when everything was existed until the end, just went like that into nothing. Like, so there was no time, there was no beginning, there was no end.
Game over.
Game over. No source. It was
Nothingness.
nothingness.
Blackness. Yeah.
Nothingness.
No reference to.
No reference point.
No reference
Nothing
point.
at all. No time. Nothing. It was just nothing. I was gone, and I don't remember anything for a while. Then all I remember is like then waking up in this other realm.
Yeah.
Where like there's no physicality.
Yeah.
I had died. There was no me anymore. It was just like there was just an awareness there.
Yeah.
And
was
then
there a body?
no, I didn't have the body. No, it was just like I was just a point of it was like some kind of like reference observation. And then there was this like shaman that came, like this old man, and he had this book, and he went, "The end." And I was like
in the vision.
It came in the vision.
Yeah,
it's like the end. Like almost like it's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like everything that you've ever experienced, the beginning of life till the end of time, it was all just a story, and you were just a part in this story.
Oh, wow.
So my head was like, at that point, I was just like, I just didn't like. I can't even remember how I was thinking at that exact moment, but just like, absolutely blown to pieces. And then I just remember like hearing tweets, like birds and things like that.
Yeah.
And the next thing, just like I kind of remember seeing. Have you ever done DMT before, where like everything's all kaleidoscopic?
Yeah.
Well, it was like that for about 15-20 minutes, where like I opened my eyes and I couldn't see. But I could just see like, like the thing. So I was like coming back
a little bit, but yeah, I understand.
It was like that for about 15 minutes, so I could hear like birds and tweets, and I was like, oh my god, like I've got a physical body.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it was just like it took a while for that to come round, but then I did actually start coming back. But it was the daylight, so I'd been gone. We started the ceremony about 9-10 o'clock at night, so it must have been 8 hours.
Yeah.
I was completely
that's like maximum, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, was that Dark Night of the Soul kind of thing?
Well, the Dark Night of the Soul came after that. So like,
it's like up there, it's the exponential end of the curve.
Yeah. So it was after that. Well, I came back into my body, and I was just like looking around, and the other people that were still there, they left. They were like, "Fuck this!" Like it scared them.
Yeah.
Witnessing me going through what I was going through.
Wow.
They thought they thought that he's
lost it.
He's lost the pot. He's gone, because I was like obviously rolling around on the floor and like screaming, and like they just thought that I'd lost the plot.
Including the shamans had left.
The shamans left.
The shamans left.
No, they go at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's just over. See you later.
So they'd gone, but it's normally over by then.
Yeah.
But I was in it for longer, for some reason. I don't know why. It was strange. It wasn't like a usual.
Yeah.
It wasn't a usual ayahuasca experience. Like it was something a lot more beyond that. Like, but so the people who were there left. They were like, there were 2 remaining because the other girl was already gone. The couple that were there, they were like, yeah, we've got to go, and like they left. So I was the only one there. And I
don't want to be the only one there.
No, not after that anyway. So I was like, it come to the point where I was on my own in the Amazon, and I was like terrified, and my mind had just been obliterated, and I was just like, I kept getting little flashbacks, and I was like, the world's gonna end. I was like, fuck, I've just like been shown something, like where the light, the darkness is one, and all this, like, and I was like, it got in me, proper, good and proper, and then I ended up staying actually, and I did a couple more. So these other people came later on in the during the time I was there, and then the owner of the centre came as well. And then the ceremonies that happened like further along the line, the time I was there, started changing. Like, they were nicer, they were better, and I thought,
were you thinking that you've captured that energy?
No, they were they were better.
It was like, why are those ones so awful and horrible and dark when those other ones are so light? What's the factor that's
what's going on here? And then there was one other ceremony where he wasn't there and it was dark again, but I didn't let myself. I kind of like, I felt the energy that was coming from them, and I kind of blocked it. And then at one point I felt myself in the spiritual realm wrestling with the other shaman. It felt like he was trying to like get into me energy, and I like stopped him from doing it. And then he was like wrestling, but like I could tell he was like trying to like wrestle with me a little bit. So then I thought, and I mentioned it to the guy who understood that. I said, why is he doing that to me? You know, and psychically and so on. He's like, oh well, that happens with shamans when there's other shamans that are like, you know, like stepping up. They kind of have a bit of like
an ego. The opposite, the intention.
Exactly.
Is opposite,
and I was like, oh, that's a bit strange. Anyway, when he came back, the ceremonies were good again, and all. Like when they were singing the Icaros, it was like lighter, and they were like doing healings on people and stuff.
And you were around for long enough to see.
Yeah, to see that. But it was when I got back. It was when I got back from the Amazon that that's when like I found it really hard, because I was having delusions. Like I was seeing like faces, like dark evil faces coming out the wall, and like hearing voices in my head, and like so I was like
PTSD,
psychosis, schizophrenia, all of it in
all
one.
All the above,
But then I was like noticing the darknesses in other people then, which was even more scary, because there was people that I knew for a long time that I was like on a level with, and I thought that, you know, when I, you know, like I was close with, but then I was seeing these like energies and darkness in them, and seeing how it plays out with each other. I was like, oh, like it was too much for me. I couldn't handle it, because I was dealing with me, trying to
integrate your experience, and then you're seeing the energy of everyone else.
Exactly.
So how did you navigate through that?
Well, it was difficult really, because I spent a lot of time in the bath. Like they're the memories that I've got. Like as the days went on, so days, weeks, months, of still like being in this headspace. That my reference point was when I was in the bath looking at the tiles, because the faces were coming out the tiles. So when I noticed it was getting a little bit less as the months went on, so I thought, hang on, I'm going to be able to recover from this, because obviously there's some parts of my mind thinking I'm never going to be able to recover. I'm like this forever now. But then there was a little voice inside that was saying, you're going to get through this, and this is meant to be. But what my problem was that in my mind I was thinking, why did that happen? And I was questioning them people and their integrity. But then there was a part of me that was going, no, this is, you know, part of your process. It's not, they're good people, and you know, they're just putting you through your tests and stuff like that. And then, but there was a part of me that was going, no, it's not that, and I needed to know. I couldn't have just left it, because I was confused, and there was a lot of, I felt like there was energy still around me that were like dark, and at night time it'd get stronger.
It was still connected to you.
It was still connected to me. It was on me. I could feel it. Like, and when I was at night time, like I was like feeling like these, like it was come alive more at night. So I dreaded the night time coming, because it was like I knew it was going to get stronger.
Did you feel like a spirit or an entity had actually attached to you?
I felt like a few of them, quite a lot. There was lots of them, but then
pretty much a bundle, like
lots of them, but what I realised is that there's a lot of me. So like there was energies that were around me, but there was also fragments of me, which was really interesting. The fact that I realised, hang on a minute, this energy that's around me isn't something negative. This energy that's around me is a part of me, and it felt familiar, and I was able to then bring that back. So I was picking up all these pieces of me that had been like fragmented, and I was bringing them back, and each time I brought a little bit back, I was a little bit more me again. So, but even in a better way, it was like I've been smashed to smithereens, But then there was all these other beings that had attached onto me, but then I was able to, like, when I was dealing with them, I could, like, bring these other bits back.
Yeah.
So then I was getting all of these different powers, and I was realising that there's parts of these that had protecting me. Then there was some guides there. There was a guide called Ezekiel that was guiding me, and I was connecting with that.
Ezekiel, and what is this, a spirit?
Spirit, yeah. And it was guiding me, and it was telling, and I was asking it questions, it was communicating with me.
Wow,
so I was like, wow, I'm like developing all of these different skills. But then I knew that I needed to go back to the Amazon, so I went back to the Amazon again, to the same place the next year.
Same place? Wow,
Yeah.
man,
I'll be back.
I went back because I knew if I don't go back, I'm gonna be stuck in this loop.
Yeah.
So I went back, and straight away I knew that they were not the right people.
Yeah.
Though they weren't good, because they were really uncomfortable around me
When you came back.
when I came back. So the man, he left, he didn't come back, but the woman stayed, and she kept trying to manipulate me. Oh, there's people in your country that have been putting curses on you and stuff like that. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, nah. I was like, no, you. I didn't say that to her, but I just knew that she had.
Yeah.
I thought I'll.
Do you think it was with intention that they put them spirits on you? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I do now, because when I went back into the ceremony again,
Yeah.
I felt it straight away. She would go doing all this. I could feel the energies coming back towards me, and I just blocked it completely. And then she started getting ill, throwing up in that in the bucket and stuff like that. Proper like, like throwing up because she of whatever it was that she was
So
sending.
you feel like
towards
she was
me.
the black magician. She was playing with the black darkness. Yeah.
What I realised was when I spent my time there, because I didn't understand that, was that that most of the shamans that are in the Amazon are working with black magic.
Yeah.
Because first of all, they get paid to do it by people, and secondly, they've made contracts with these beings that if one of these dark beings that they're working with doesn't like you for whatever reason, whether that be because you're too light or or they see you as a threat, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna release that on you.
It just blows your mind to actually to comprehend, because you've told me that story before, but like to actually grasp it and realise and see how it adds up, and how it's actually a representation of what happens in the world on a grander scale as well.
Exactly,
You're like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like
it's happening in the spirit realm as well as it happens here.
It is, and do you know what? I'm great now. Like, I know it was a long story that, but I'll try and round up how it's significant to where I'm at now, because that was the question, wasn't it? Going back to how did you get where you are now? Is because I knew that there was a voice inside of me that was telling me the truth all along.
Yeah.
But I just needed to remind myself of the truth. I needed to know the truth, though, for me to
experience.
I had to know the truth to confirm that inner knowing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't trust it enough at that point. I didn't trust that knowing that there was something not right, and until I went there and experienced it myself.
Yeah.
But then at that point, I was like, I took my power back, because I was like, I knew that. I knew I was onto it, and now I trust that.
Yeah.
So how that got me to where I am now is that inner teacher I trust has brought me all the amazing things that happen in my life now, because I trust it. And it's like when it comes to creating this place, it was like I knew that I needed to do it. And when the right opportunity came up, it was like, no, this is what you're going to do. And I was like, okay, this is my higher self or my inner teacher telling me that this is the right thing to do. And that's why I called the centre the inner guru.
I love the name, the inner guru, because we are the guru, aren't we? And that's what all shamans should be teaching.
Yes, empowering. That's white magic is planting seeds of hope and inspiration
and empowerment.
Where black magic is using energy to control and manipulate. Where we're moving out of an era where we need to rely on a guru.
100%.
Or it's like the old age of but gurus have always turned out, well, not every guru, but a lot of gurus have turned out to become manipulators and cult leaders, and you
can look at that in a kind of stardom way. You've got stars who are gurus and all that, and a lot of them aren't leading good examples. Gurus is multifaceted.
It is. It is. But I think that even leaders and politicians, you can't trust anyone. No. But what I learned is even through all that experience that I had, what was it teaching me? And the biggest lesson for me was that I know the answers anyway. Now, I went to the Amazon not knowing this subconsciously, wanting a shaman or someone to tell me what I already knew. To tell me you're going to be a healer or you're going to do this, and you've got my backing. Well, my lesson was that I never got that backing from anyone. No,
you had to find it yourself.
I had to find it myself. But the minute I find it myself, that's when the backing comes. It's the paradox of needing somebody to confirm your it's validation. And what happens is when you're looking for somebody to externally validate you, you're opening yourself up to be manipulative. That's what happens when it comes to relying on gurus and like leaders to tell you what you need to do. Look at right now. People are like, what do we do now?
What do we do? Waiting for the scientists, they're waiting for the officials to tell us what to do, and they're not open. Well, a lot of people are close to the possibility that they could be leading us in an agenda-ridden direction,
And on top of that, I think even in a more classic example is actually when you're in relationships as well. So people rely and give their power away to their partner to make them feel a certain way. And they actually and I mean you see this more in the female dynamic in terms of like getting manipulated by males and narcissistic male tendencies, obviously controlled by the ego and so on and so forth. But you see that throughout the entirety of society, and it all goes back to not trusting what's inside. And that comes because we've been taught from such a young age in our social conditioning to get our answers from our teachers, from our social leaders and whatever. So it's taught to us, and that becomes who we are automatically. And the process of unlearning.
A lot of that comes from this imbalance of the masculine and feminine as well. Collectively, like over the years, it's been this patriarchal dominance 100%. That has suppressed. It's like that right left brain imbalance. It's like that suppressing of the spirit, the feminine side, but it was also been the feminine side has also been portrayed as the darkness. The creative spiritual side has been demonized by the church as the
witchery, the
darkness. But what that does is it creates like this imbalance of energy, and when like the feminine, the divine feminine energy, should be able to trust the masculine side, But that's what we're missing in society, and I'm witnessing it quite a lot now. Is like some people who are really hardcore, mind based, science, just science, and there's there's no movement at all for spirituality in that. But I think that in order to create harmony within the world that we're experiencing, we have to create that balance of masculine and feminine energies within ourselves and collectively. Because there is science. Science is great. It's a fantastic tool. The mind can be used as an unbelievable tool for technology that we can create. But we can't disown that feminine, the spiritual side of nature as well.
It must be integrated.
It has to be integrated.
And actually that's when you will probably see the return of the golden ages, when science and spirituality can come together.
That's where we're coming in, and psychology and everything, it's all of it coming in together, isn't it?
It is happening. There's a really interesting psychotherapeutic model called internal family systems. And when I was going through my crisis, like spiritual emergency, so to speak, after the
I like that spiritual emergency.
I like the word emergency. Stanislav Grof talks about emergency because it's an emergency, like a crisis.
It's a crisis,
but if you look at the breakdown the word, emergency. So it's emerging. So it's like a spiritual emergency. It is an emergency because it can be quite a crisis. But at the same time, it's something emerging.
Yeah, it's like because we study this, because it's interesting you mentioned psychology, and in one of the modules that we used to do, it's like from a crisis you have this point here, but you can either adapt positively or negatively, adaptively or maladaptively. And that emergency concept really latches onto the fact that in this crisis, I will actually, and another concept they talk about is post-traumatic growth. Right, because we know about PTSD, but PTG is on the flip side. And you have your yin and your yang, and so an emergency really taps into that, doesn't it? Like, there's something greater that is coming from this experience that I've been through.
And it's perspective, isn't it? Is the emergency an emergency, or is it an emergent? It's how you look at it. And and it's like a lot of tribal cultures really embrace initiation.
Yeah.
And it's like something that we're just not, like, we don't have that initiation. We're not initiated into spiritual reality enough as it is. Whereas like that post-traumatic growth is where most initiations are traumatic. If integrated properly, they can bring growth. Now, this is something that, you know, we all go through these initiations, but a lot of us don't integrate or come through it, and we're still traumatized from it. That could be, you know, what's the typical initiation for people in our part of the world? High school, normal, you know, going to school, you know, society. Like, that's an initiation in itself, isn't it? You know, sometimes you have to make it through that, don't you? But it's not integrated well if it's not understood.
No, I think there's not enough integration at all.
No, we need that. I mean, like, some tribal cultures let their the children, when they're going into adolescence to adults, they send them off into the woods to to stay on their own for days on end. If we wouldn't do that to our children, would we?
Well,
not at all.
Yeah, it seems like the philosophies are that's one based on like it's okay to be uncomfortable because that's where growth happens when you're stretching. Whereas our secular model is based on like living comfort, convenience, comfort. No problems, just manage, be mediocre, don't push the boundaries, fit within the box.
Be as comfortable as possible. Any discomfort is discouraged, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's the discomfort that brings growth.
Growth, of course.
It is. We need to that's one thing that is constant, is growth. Like, when we're not growing, we're becoming stagnant. And stagnation
100%.
creates illnesses and blockages.
Just recently, I've just came back from Glastonbury, and just something as simple as like we would have to go to the White Spring to get the water so we could fill the kettle in the morning and stuff like that, and just simple things like that where it was something where I'd appreciate that I'd have to go and get the water and stuff like that. Whereas in the flat, I can just turn the kettle on, have a cup of tea within minutes, and then I'm stagnant then in that environment, Whereas, you could keep moving and understanding your connection to things.
Yeah, and just a tip,
without the comfort,
And just a tip for people at the moment who are at home and stuff, like stuck in home, and you think, we have everything on convenience and it's just there. But we can still be very grateful for everything that has come. And one simple way of doing it is just open your fridge and just take a look at what's in the fridge and just think about how many processes that piece of food or drink has gone through to get to your fridge. You don't have to go to the well, but then somebody's picked up the plant. That's been transported in a lorry, that's been stored somewhere, someone's moved it on a trolley, that's then been transported to the shop and someone's put it there and so on.
It's consciously eating as well. A lot of people bless the food first. I know a lad called Frankie from the Rainbow Gatherings, and he would bless each biscuit before he ate it. And he'd be very stoned and he'd be eating loads of biscuits, but he'd bless them all dead quick like this.
Just act like an apple, like an orange.
It's gratitude, isn't it? It's really being grateful for everything, really. Because it's when we're attached to things in a negative way, or we think it's like trauma as well. If we attach ourselves to trauma in a negative way, then we become a victim to it, and then it's very hard for us to get out of that, because there's always, when we're a victim, that means there's always someone to blame, and there's always it creates these cycles. It's when we can look at our traumas and things it's like what I went through. If I hadn't have made peace with that, then still now I would be probably in a mental asylum, because it was that intense.
You had to
trauma.
make peace. There was no other option but to make peace with it.
But now I learned the lesson from it. It was it was meant to be, because if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't have been able to learn all the amazing gifts and abilities that I've got for healing. So
it's just coming into where you're at now with the inner guru and stuff. So what's your primary sort of goal with this, what you're doing here at the moment?
Well, the great thing is at the moment is, luckily, we're still allowed to do support groups. So that's the main thing, and I'm glad that we were able to continue to do that, because it's so much needed. We have the Narcotics Anonymous groups here. We have mental health support groups on Sundays, and we've got a meditation group that we do every Friday. So people really need that community. So the plan for when we come out of lockdown is to just carry on doing more community projects. And also we have these events on Fridays and Saturdays where we're doing cacao ceremonies. They're on every Friday, workshops on Saturdays, the yoga we'll be back on again, and I'm hoping that in the near future I will be able to potentially expand to get the floor below, so we can have more activities on. But yeah, just to create more of a hub for for people to come. I'm sure that when the lockdown's over, it'll become even more busy. But just to try and help as many people as we can, really, just by creating a space that people can feel. Like a hub.
And I think just testament to like the work you've done. I think I always try and shine the light on because obviously you're a very humble person and stuff, but like. It just shows how amazing something could be built in such a short amount of time when it's built on solid foundations of truth, right principles. Like like you said, you turned this place around in a couple of months with just you and a relative or something like that, and then instantly you've got so many different sorts of classes coming on, people coming in. And even through lockdown, it's provided a sanctuary in the heart of Liverpool for people to come to who have needed it most.
Exactly.
And the way that it's grown organically, you can kind of just tell that it's built on solid foundations. That's what the world needs, like more of these communities of truth where people can come together.
The space needs to be provided for people, and with the lockdowns and stuff, that's what we're getting taken away from us is the opportunity to come together in these spaces.
The thing is about like. The intention behind creating this place is it come from a pure place. There was no agendas for like generating profit and things like that. I mean, it's great. I have my own work and that's great. I was doing that anyway. I've got somewhere to work from. Fantastic. But the idea about this place is, as a community interest company, what makes it good about that is that it is non-for-profit, and that I have ultimate faith that. It doesn't matter what happens during any lockdowns, is that this place that will keep going and it will keep growing because I feel like it's a being of itself. It's like it's its own entity and it's creating things itself.
And you're providing space for other people to run workshops and all that. So it's not like your space, is it? It's an open space.
Exactly. That was the idea around it, and that's what, like I say, that's what we need more of. Is like people to create things like this that come from a good intention. It's not all about generating profit because I think power, because at the end of the day, profit and power, it's an illusionary gain. It's not substantial.
It's the old paradigm, isn't it?
It's an old paradigm, and I find that a lot of institutions and things that have been based on these greed power structures, it's like they're a house of cards. Whenever the wind of truth comes along, it just blows them over. And when something's been built on truth and good foundations, like you're saying, it doesn't matter what comes along, nothing will knock it down.
And what about yourself then, Chris? So how have you ended up sitting here today?
How can I match that? I'm out, end of podcast. It's been a really interesting one, actually, the journey. In terms of where I am at now, it's kind of been a bit of an accelerated journey. From being a young person, I saw a lot of things that a lot of people didn't see. I mean, maybe people from Liverpool might have seen that stuff, but no. Like different people in society, people who are struggling. My dad was helping out a lot of people from that sort of age. Being open to a lot of experiences that people weren't gave me a sort of outlook on life that was different to a lot of other people, and there was a real balance because on one stage I had like a really good quality life on like one surface, and people will say, oh, it looks like you had a silver spoon in your mouth kind of thing, but then on the other hand it was like extreme trauma. So my parents have had their own struggles and they've gone through their own things, and actually led me down a path to study psychology. So I studied psychology at uni, and actually, funnily enough, it's another example of like you think you're going down a path and then you get redirected, and that's one thing that I've noticed a lot in over the years is like I wanted to go down the finance route because that's what's socially done, right? That's a social expectation, like work in the corporate sector and all that, like be a cog in the machine and
work your way up the ladder,
right? And it wasn't meant to be. So I actually completely flopped my AS levels. And I had to resit the year. So, I mean, I had to stop the school year, take it again. But actually in that year, all the most incredible things happened to me. My personality developed. I became more confident. I found subjects I actually enjoyed. You know, all those sorts of growth aspects came because I had to take a step back and go forward, almost like pulling back that bow. And then I got to uni, I did psychology, and it was the most incredible experience. I was fortunate enough to be one of the elected officers, so I got a great insight into organizational structures and like how, you know, I was sitting next to the vice chancellor who's earning 430k a year, and just like getting a sense of like that authoritarian rule of like white man middle class, and seeing how that like plays out in society, and like challenging that and challenging the university structures and stuff, which was fascinating. And then psychology I enjoyed, but there was something missing. I think we've alluded to this before, but like in the paradigm which is studied, it's like they're trying to push it, and this is my own opinions, right? But they're trying to push it to be like a subject that correlates with medicine. So like to be a psychiatrist, you need to do medicine as well. So it's like to be able to work with people with mental health, you have to go in with the doctrine, you know? And actually, and what I've started to realize, because we don't actually cover these psychologists as much, but Stanislav Grof, and who's the other person who called Liverpool the Pool of Life?
Carl Jung.
How can we forget Carl Jung, right? But these guys were and William James to an extent were quite spiritual. And what I've learned over time is, so, you know, my move went more into the coaching world, so I'll dive into that more in a bit, but I realized that there is a link between spirituality and psychology, and then I started delving into the esoteric stuff, and you realize that like everything is mental, everything is mind, like that's one of the Hermetic principles, one of the core ones. So then you start to realize that, hang on, so everything is consciousness, everything is awareness. And then I started to see, and you alluded to this before, like where white magic and black magic is performed, it's thought forms. So it's intention which comes through thought, which is linked to vibration, that is cast on people, that we see all through society, and those things attach to people, and actually that might have a role in psychosis. Right, so when people are actually hearing voices, maybe they are plugged into a vibrational frequency that then draws in through the law of attraction those beings on that frequency, right? And so they literally attach to it, and that's where the balance comes. So on a personal level, I was like, wow, like this is something I want to just explore more, and I kind of saw that, oh, perhaps this is part of my journey. And I ended up going traveling through another redirection. So I had a grad job. I had a settled relationship. All that universe was like, no thanks. Ended up going traveling, and 4 months was like 4 years. It was an initiation, not quite at Lewis's end of the spectrum, but there was a real like ending of one chapter of my life and a beginning of a new one, and I really felt that the whole way through. And this was only last year, so you know, and looking at it in hindsight, it's like, wow, I think I was meant to go through that just at this period in time to be prepared for what we're going through, right? And I was like, it blew my mind to really think about that. And so when I was in Thailand and Bali, I had my awakening, and some wonderful experiences, you know, like when you start to manifest, when you're in a state of joy and just things start coming to your life, and you're meeting the right people at the right time. And actually the first book I read was that Celestine's Prophecy. Everybody, if you're it's a good book recommendation, Celestine's Prophecy. And that book was the book that I read at my awakening. So it all came together like that. And then I remember going to an island in Bali called Gili Trawangan, and explored with mushrooms there a few times. And I mean, a lot of people were there doing it for pleasure and having fun, but I've naturally been quite philosophical and a deep person. So you know, it just happened out the blue, and I was like, oh, this is the right time. And so I went and did it, and I mean, I had the Messiah complex, right? Because I was wearing blue. Everything was blue, right? The flannel I had was blue, my sarong was blue, the bottle cap was blue, and I was like connected to the idea of either my throat or Anya chakra, the color of blue was the one that I was connected to. So everything came in through that. Now my name is Kris, spelt with a K. My middle name is Nathan, and my surname is Ali. So the initials wise was Kris N.A. right? And so then I had the Messiah complex on these mushrooms, and the consciousness coming to me like, oh my God, you're Krishna, because you're playful, like all these archetypes that Krishna represents. It was like, that's me. and you know, my heritage is like Sikh, Muslim backgrounds, and bits of Hinduism, and it's like, and I was like, oh my god, the same way you probably have with Jesus, and 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 then fortunately enough, I realized that, actually, hang on a second, this is an archetype, this is a representation of who you're meant to embody. And I'm very fortunate to my brother, actually my older brother, for guiding me on that process, because I saw some of the dark side of what the system is doing at 14, 13, 14, and trying out of body experiences, but being too fearful to leave, then having that experience at 23, 24. So now at this age, I've seen so much that, like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you just awaken, like you seem like you know this stuff, like to an extent, and I know there's a lot more to learn, and that's what I'm excited about now with everything going on. But since coming back, I realised that Liverpool was basically, it just called me as the place to be. And
did you have connections?
I met somebody while travelling, and we got on really well, so I was staying with her, and that was, you know, it was really good. And I was here in the summer and saw some of the work that was being done. Even though it was lockdown, I was in love with the place. Like, I just, you know, when you just feel like at home, like, you know there's something right, and it was the people, you know. It's like a real family atmosphere within a city, and that was what kind of drew me in. So I was back home for the summer and came back in September, and you know, when you talk about synchronicities and incredible timing and when things are meant to be, I moved on the 24th of September, and if you remember, the 24th of September was your event, right? So I come along to this event which you're running and you're speaking at, and I saw Lewis speaking on the stage, and I was like, well, that's not your average bloke, you know. I told you, what do you call neo-shaman? You mentioned, like, to an extent.
Neo-shaman, I like that.
I mean, that it's people ask, you know, you're a shaman now then, what? I'm like, well, not really, because, well, first of all, a shaman is someone that comes from Siberia, that has come from a specific lineage that practices in this way. The people in the Amazon don't call themselves shamans. You know.
Oh, do they not?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, curanderos or maestros or... And I was thinking to myself, well, I actually don't really know. But neo-shamanism, it's new. I'm adapting to new things. I've had my own initiation into it. Nobody's initiated me into a tradition, into a culture. Spirit, my guides that I connect with now all the time, initiated me into what I'm doing. So if I was to put a name on it, it would be neo-shaman. Because that is that it's not dogmatic. It's not dogmatic. It's not stuck to any. It's neo-shamanism is just
it's open,
not,
isn't it?
it's not connected to any specific culture or tradition.
No, I like that.
It's the only thing I could think, you know, to name it. To put if you were doing this, what is it?
It's almost like you don't want to put a name on it sometimes, because you don't have to label and categorize everything.
Or it could just be mystic. Mystic or healer. Healer.
That's an interesting point that you mentioned when it comes to like mystic healing and stuff, because it's something that's accessible to all. When you talk about like shamans and stuff, it implies that it's, you know, like a small crop of beings that are able to do it, right? And it's a gift, but everybody can do it.
Hence the inner guru, you know.
Right. And I think that's what the world is ready to start comprehending, to understand, and that's what we've got to start sharing. And you know, we're on this journey that a lot of us have seen, because I know also in one of the experiences I had on mushrooms, it was like I saw the beginning of time and the development of human consciousness on a scale, like through history, from, you know, let's call it before Christ time, or whatever you want to call it, like, you know, the ancients, and how that developed into, you know, the time of Christ, and then how it developed, and actually the importance of like William Shakespeare in the development of human consciousness too, in terms of like expressing emotions, creativity, right? There wasn't much of that before, so he brought that. And you know, another profound book that I had was The Secret History of the World, and that representation of what I read but didn't understand at the time. Exactly. So
The Power of Now was like that for me. I read that and I got bits of it, but it was only later on when I found it was really just coming through in life practice.
So and And so in that experience, I realized that, like, you know, what we're going through right now is exactly what is meant to be happening before we go through a transition. And it's like a representation of any healing, right?
Yeah.
You know, the dark stuff, or the, you know, lower vibrational stuff, if you want to term it that way, that's been happening behind the scenes, because obviously there are people who, everyone has an opportunity to be controlled by ego, and we all are at times, right? Like, you know, it's very difficult to not be, but we remain conscious of it.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of people who obviously don't want to be conscious of it because they're very happy to be in that state.
Yeah.
Or that's all they know anyway. So they are on a scale, and on that scale is, you know, greed, corruption comes into it, power comes into it, and so obviously people want to grow in their agenda because they always have a need for more, because they are never truly fulfilled, because they're unconscious, so they always have unfulfilled desire that they need to chase. And so because of that, we are seeing what we're seeing. So those players obviously want to, I mean, we were in a capitalist society before, but now it's a plutocracy. So those players, what they're looking to do is to enhance their own strength and power, because that's what they think will fulfill them. And so what we're seeing at the moment is them just trying to go for their goals. But on the other hand, and this is kind of like what we see in some religious texts and stuff, it's like they're transitioning into a new age, and you see that in the Mayan calendar and stuff. And it's these two timelines that are kind of like running, and they're intersecting, and it's
almost like forks in the road, isn't it? They're coming to head right now. You know?
And it's interesting that, because like my experience, you know, with the apocalypse and things like that, I experienced, and like, you know, these like, you know, beings and energies that were me, that were trying to convince me that it's the end of the world. Well, that's kind of like what these energies that are kind of like influencing what's happening now. You know, like that apocalyptic scenario. And but there is that sort of like divide now. Some people are seeing it as the beginning of the new world, and some people are seeing it as the end. But apocalypse in the like the Jungian, you know, that sort of like archetypal, you know, how that represents what's happening is it's death and rebirth, and in tarot it's the death, it's the end of the cycle, but that's not the end. It's
because of reincarnation.
It's the beginning.
Everything's a cycle, isn't it?
And it's like, most simply put, in that physics term, that's like energy's never created or destroyed, it's only transferred from one source to another. So there is no way that as you die you can physically just evaporate into nothing. There has to be some other,
on a physical level, your physical body will go back into the energy of the earth. On a consciousness level or spirit level, you know, maybe that will head elsewhere, you know.
There's a guy called Kalindi E, who I think that was his last name, Kalindi E, and he used to take heroic doses of mushrooms. An African guy, and he would take like 50 grams of mushrooms and things like that, and go on like, you know, really heroic journeys, like in different realms, and battling with like, you know, titans and things from other worlds, and like, you know, this is like, you're talking like 12-14 hour trips, like in DMC space and stuff.
Like,
I know. And some of the stories that he come back with, you know, were phenomenal. But one of the main things that he said that stuck to me was the one thing that he learned from all of his many deep hyperspace journeys was that it is absolutely impossible to die.
Oh wow.
It doesn't matter what he was faced with in these experiences that might have brought some elements of fear and other kinds of emotions,
1,000 times,
is that you cannot die. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you go through these death experiences,
you come back,
you can never die.
It's like Grand Theft Auto then, or like one of those games where you die and you actually come back and you start over again somewhere else.
But that, I didn't know quite how to take that. When I took that, I thought, what if like I might want to die at some point? You know,
I think obviously your identity does die, doesn't it? You as Lewis will eventually die, but something will carry on.
I mean, your higher self always has like these memories of things, you know, from previous lives, and sometimes it's not possible to tap into that again.
Like big Akashic records and stuff like that.
We all have access. We do all have access to that. But obviously we forget.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to remember, and there's so much information coming through into the system that.
Yeah.
I love this poem that was that I shared on my Instagram page. And it said, if God knew all there was to know, then how could we learn or grow? Like when you were saying before, like, oh, you know, I've got so much more to learn. Maybe you haven't got so much more to learn. Maybe you just got more to remember.
Yeah, I remember you saying this quote. Yeah.
Because you know, God made this plane of limitation, so He could experience His own creation.
Everything, every element of it.
Yeah, like,
because if it was all everything at once, then there would be no zooming in. There would be no.
The mortals long for the infinite touch. Yeah. But the infinite longs to know not so much.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like that, like it's powerful, isn't it?
It's put so well, isn't it? To think that, like, But I mean, but as in terms of how it goes at human experience, like we are everything, and like, you know, when you see the fractal universe and how that works, it's like pretty mind blowing. But you know, we are the equivalent of a grain of sand, but we also are the size of the entire universe. And I think when you start to understand that, you're like, it can any sort of thinking of like, oh, I know a lot starts to just dwindle away.
Yeah.
And you start to realize that, like, learning, remembering, same sort of principle, isn't it? And it's just crazy to think how we could be living in a universe which has no substance behind it.
Yeah.
Right? Because what has been, I mean, out of an explosion, what's normally created, and Joe Dispenza says this, like, what's normally created from an explosion? Order or chaos? Mm-hmm. If you have an explosion?
Yeah, it's chaos.
Chaos. Mm-hmm. Does this look like chaos?
No.
Right? The order of the universe is so orderly.
Yeah.
That there is no way that it can be done by accident.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful quote.
When you look at Fibonacci sequence and stuff like that, and
there's a beautiful quote that really got me questioning things, and it created quite a lot of peace within me. And somebody to mention this to me, to ask yourself, what do you really know for certain? And just sit with that. What do you really know for certain?
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, nothing. But that moment of realising that you don't know anything for certain is powerfully liberating.
100%.
It's like
it can be both scary and liberating.
And liberating at the same time, just knowing that we don't actually know anything. And I just meditated with that.
Yeah.
And I just found this space inside, and I just meditated with that, like, I don't actually know anything for certain. And there was so much beauty in that.
Yeah.
And there was so much like light and space and like love and joy there. That when I was meditating with it.
There's room.
Because one thing that I did know for certain is that I am full of love, full of light, and you know, I'm experiencing this right now. Anything else, I don't know if it's for certain or not. But one thing of advice that I could give to anybody, like, who's going through difficult experiences or experiencing fear and things like that, is that when you are in a state of love and you've got loving energies around you, none of that exists anymore.
None of it exists at all.
It's gone. That's why it's so important, like, to, you know, be really nourishing and loving towards our children and each other.
Joyful around each other. I've been finding that lately with the circles that I've been holding at St James Spring. Like, we've been going there and we've just been connecting, holding hands, getting in circle, sending our intentions out to the universe, and just in doing that alone, I've just been feeling this complete feeling of love. And I've just been everywhere I've been going, and now I'll walk through Sefton Park and it's just with me now, and I'm walking through the park, and any interaction I have with anyone, I know it's been passed on. I can feel it, and it's been passed on a little bit, and I'm just really lucky to be holding that in within me at the moment. It's been other times when I've had it, you know, and then for whatever reason you go back into old habits or whatever, and you lose it again. But I've been feeling that feeling of love a lot lately.
And with everything that's going on, like, it is extremely natural and expected to be feeling quite low. Like, I think we've all had experience of that as well. But what people will find really helpful generally is what we call, like, state shifts. So what you want to do is to find anchors, positive anchors, that you can use to get you out of a negative shift or a spiral, right? So this might be specific songs, specific memories, specific people and conversations, and all sorts of different things that you can use, so that when you're in a period of, you know, feeling really low or really fearful or just like, I feel like I'm trapped in a prison or whatever, you firstly take the opportunity in that moment to say, okay, I'm feeling this way, and then the opportunity to think, right, to observe it. To observe it, because once you observe it, and it almost is as if you're watching it from a different place, or detaches, or like just see it from a different perspective. So once you can see it from that different perspective, you're no longer caught up in the tornado or the hurricane or whatever. So once you're aware of it, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is just to implement a quick shift. So it can be any of those activities, or another really simple thing that's been shared by the Heart Math Institute is heart activation breathing. So essentially what you do is you just close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and then slowly just, I mean, you can do it now if you want, but just breathe in really slowly through your heart and feel that breath going through the physical heart. And then when you're ready, then again breathe out, but the emphasis should be on feeling that breath going through the area of your physical heart. All right, and then if you can just slow down your breath to 6 seconds per in breath and 6 seconds per out breath. And once you're settled in that state, this is when you can bring in your positive anchor. So, you know, bring a positive memory where you felt extreme joy, love, bliss. Perhaps it's with a specific person you love, or an experience that you had that makes you feel absolutely wonderful. And just really feel the feelings that it gave you. Really see the visions of what you can see, the images, and connect with that, knowing that you can allow yourself to feel that at any time and in this present moment. And then when you're ready, you slowly bring yourself back. So
it's a nice practice.
So if you have one of those anchors in your mind, or you have a song or whatever, then you can just quickly use that. I mean, that takes 2 minutes, and that's something that will really help people.
That was nice. I feel like calm and in love after that.
Right, so what you're doing is you're actually connecting with your heart center, and some people say, you know, the heart is where all that wisdom is and stuff, and once you get that connection and balance through your heart, you are disconnecting from the fear circuits in the amygdala and the stress circuits as well. So neurologically, you're actually creating a new state of chemistry within the body. So you're actually changing the chemicals that are sent within your body, so you're actually making yourself feel better. And as we know, like, you know, reality is infinite in nature. It's about how we perceive it. And so if you can shift your internal way of being, you can create powerful changes.
And that's what you've been doing, isn't it? You've been doing a lot of meditation and stuff like that. You've been doing that here at the Inner Guru.
I've done a couple of things with Lewis. Like, we ran a few workshops. One was quite nice. It was like conscious creators, isn't it? Helping people to realize that they can actually create whatever they want, and to just release the blockages. Because, you know, we always say, like, you know, your only competition is yourself, essentially, and all the blockages that have been put in over time, and people release that. Exactly. Patterns. When you start to realize about patterns, you realize patterns are everywhere and everything that exists. Like, patterns are never ending, man. I was thinking maybe we should set up a venture called like the Pattern Crackers and make it again, because like everyone has
can make it fun.
Right, but patterns come into it a lot and stuff. And I've been doing a little bit of work about how to help people be happier in tough times. As we alluded to before, there's concepts such as post-traumatic growth and resilience.
I like that.
But also on a deeper level, it's about how we relate to the world and how we relate to our past, how we relate to failure, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to other people, and our quality of interpersonal relationships. You know, all on a mental, emotional, physical, interpersonal and spiritual levels. And once we can start to tweak those areas, we can actually drastically increase our levels of happiness over the long term. Because what all the research finds is that, you know, anything that is external, whether you win the lottery or you you know, have a part of your body amputated, after an initial spike in happiness or depression, after a year, both groups will return to their baseline. This is called your happiness set point.
Yeah.
So what is more important is your internal settings rather than your external circumstances. So everyone's chasing this absolute kind of stereotypical idea of something, if this happens, then I'll be happy. But what they don't realize is it's like that carrot dangling in front of the donkey. Is that unfortunately what will happen is it will dissolve into the background. It will become a normal part of your life,
and then you're searching for the next.
And then you're searching for the next thing, and it's worse because that thing that you thought was going to make you feel great
it's like an illusion, isn't it? A projection.
Yeah.
Like you think you're going to get it, and
you want to get it, and then you grab through it, and that's it.
It's an inside job, isn't it?
Yeah, but exactly. And so there is hope. There is hope for everybody because it's an inside job. And it's a skill which you develop.
Yeah.
Right. It is most definitely a skill that you develop. It's not like you're born with it or you're not.
Yeah.
No matter what your parents say or whatever. And I think it's about time where people start to kind of like tap into that a bit more because you realise that it's one of the most fundamental purposes of life. To experience the joy of creation.
That's what I realised. With like playing with acid and stuff when I was a bit younger, maybe when I was like 22, 23, and I always wanted to be in a band and like kind of like make it in a band and do this and be famous or whatever. And after a few trips of acid, I just realised that like that wasn't what even if I'd have got that, I would have wanted something else after it. And then I realised all these patterns in my life where I'd wanted this and then I'd got it and then it didn't fulfil me and nothing was fulfilling me. And as soon as I let go of that expectation for something external to fulfil me, I just opened up to the infinite fulfillment that was already within.
Yeah. And that's it. There's a part of us, our consciousness or whatever you want to call it, that is infinite in nature, that's bound by this body. And so when it comes to desire, you're always going to want the next thing because there is an inner drive for life to chase after the next thing. Because if we had, and this is what some practitioners have to be careful of, especially in like the Eastern cultures and stuff. I mean, they obviously know what they're doing. I'm not like saying that, but anything like that. But when people say like don't have desire is life force energy. I mean, if I don't desire to speak, then
you just be a vegetable.
Right, vegetative state. Right, so we need a sense of desire, but it's just about being conscious and aware with that desire and using it in the right way.
Yeah. And that's like saying we need an ego in a sense. There needs to be some kind of ego there to drive you, but we could call it a driving force. And there needs to be an amount of that, but it's only when it gets overruled or you get out of balance or something like that that the ego becomes a problem. But it's there as a tool, isn't it? And anything that drives you is there as a tool.
Most definitely.
It's how you use it, like anything,
That's it.
Just coming into mentioning stuff on the current sort of situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got the lockdown situation at the moment and how that's impacting people and stuff like that. It's a tricky situation at the moment, and where the direction it's heading in and stuff, with the Great Reset and all this type of stuff. Just basic kind of inspiration. What could we, be putting out there and just giving people sparks of hope and stuff like that. Any advice?
Hope in a hopeless situation. No, it's definitely not.
It's not hopeless.
It's the opposite.
Exactly. I think one thing that we have to come to realize is that this process must endure. Like it has to happen because in any healing experience, what will happen is you obviously go through a process of releasing the turmoil, the stuff that needs to be released. And I think I just touched on it earlier, but there is a level of activity that is occurring on this frequency, right? Like greed, corruption, some people are aware of things like the trafficking and all other sorts of nonsense that we don't really want to have to dive into too much, but that must be purged and released in order for us to be able to let go of it truly and it to be transmuted and then for us to move into a new way of being.
Exactly. It's like this there's denial. Like denial about anything doesn't help it. I think the key is acceptance, and that's not. When the thing is, some people think acceptance is being passive. It's not. Accepting something means that you're acknowledging that it's there.
It's inevitable. It's here. Yeah.
It's the same when it comes to yourself, parts of yourself. It's really interesting because I found that some habits some addictions that I have had, that when I deny it, it gets worse. Or if I don't accept it, not like just accept that I have an addiction, but accept the addiction. So like if I'm like thinking I really don't want this addiction, what I noticed, this is a good tip for anyone who's trying to quit smoking or anything like that, is that when I felt guilty about doing that thing, it made it worse, and I couldn't help it. It made me do it more.
Right.
But by accepting that it's there, and then maybe if one time, you want to do something that feel, and do it, and then I do it, and it's okay. Yeah. And then eventually I'm not doing it as much. Do you know?
Give yourself permission to do it. Go on, I'll
give yourself permission to do it. But I think it's just all comes down to acceptance, really.
100%.
Is that when we can accept the situation and also see, and there's also a side why certain things will be teaching us as well.
Yeah.
Then I think that's when we can, we'll move through this a lot more smoothly when we can accept what's happening.
That is a crucial factor, and the same thing with emotions, right? So we've been taught to suppress and fight against emotions and lash out. Now what that does is, because we're focusing on what we don't want, we are creating more and more of that, because it's like the universe always gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want. It's the best boss you ever have, right? Right. So it's giving you what you need to be able to react in an adaptive an adaptive response. So if you're saying like, I don't want this drug, like, I haven't got this addiction, I haven't got this addiction, I haven't got this addiction, it's not part of me, you are constantly reinforcing that there is something that you don't want there, right? So you're constantly
creating a polarity,
right? So you're creating it being there, actually, by the fact of being anti-war, you are creating war. It's a paradox. It's a paradox. Fighting the establishment at their own game is giving them energy, it's feeding.
That's why they allow it.
That's why they allow it. That's it.
If they thought it was making a difference, they'd stopped it by now.
That's it.
Trust me. It's like what they don't want to do is to unite us in any way, because it's the polarity that these beings of control need. I think to get through it is to unify. Any advice that I could give to people would be to come together. This is the divide, isolation, and all this. Okay, fair enough. That virus, contagious and stuff, but that we need to come together. We need unity. And also just to try and do things that you're enjoying as much as you can. Being in love. In love with life.
Finding that love with life.
No matter what it is that comes, there's always some beauty there. You can spend this, if you're not in work and you spend a lot of time, go for walks, appreciate nature, things like that.
Right, and there was a period of time where you said, I wish I didn't have to go to work. I wish I didn't have to commute. I wish I had that extra time to do nothing. And actually, and again, this is a perspective shift, but you have the opportunity to see this is the time to do things that you never would have considered doing before. And think about, like, how can I actually use this time to pause, take a break, and just think, okay, what do I want for my life going forward? How do I want to use this time? Because thankfully, I don't have to, have this painful commute or deal with the painful co-workers or all these things that you don't want to do.
Someone put on Facebook the other day something like, I'm so sad now, I've got no routine, and I put something back just saying, create one.
Create
a routine, make a new routine, and it won't be with all these things that that maybe at one time you didn't want to do.
I think this is one thing that, again, like, it goes back to the point that we've relied on, like, forces outside of us to give us everything, so we've like reinforced our victim state. This is another thing that the conscious community should be aware of, is like reinforcing the victim perspective of, like, the system being able to, like, control and like almost like suppress the Great Awakening. And reinforcing that victim position, like, and I'm sure you guys are aware of the kind of thing that I'm talking about, saying like we will be forced or shunned or whatever, only makes that more likely.
100%.
And the likelihood is that there are, like, we know that there are steps that are being taken for them to further their goals or agenda.
Yeah.
But actually, on another level, there are so many steps, and there are so many people who are waking up every day that there is no way we're going to get to that place before enough people are woken up to respond in a non-complicit way.
And as long as we hold that as well and stay conscious of that.
Hold the vision, and that's in prophecy. Hold the vision, right? Shine the light on what we should be moving into, and like, please, as hard as it is, like, don't call like unawakened people sheeple and stuff, because it's like really easy. It's really, but and that's exactly what they want, isn't it? That's exactly what they want.
So then we can't focus on the common goal, which is the emergence and the awakening.
And I think the one thing that the shift that you can make is to start seeing the similarities between you and someone else, rather than the difference.
I've started doing that actually more with people that I don't agree with. There's some people that I'm actually finding common ground with here.
Just stop judging them just as much. Like,
I used to be like hardcore socialist, and now like I'm seeing the real darkness in socialism now. But I'm like,
authoritarian left.
Well, that's the thing, because it's what's being proposed isn't real socialism, is it?
No, it's communism.
The Great Reset is communism. Really. It's socialism for us, but there's still an elite class.
So it's the dualism, isn't it? Again, becoming even stronger and stronger.
That's it.
But
the divide.
Like I say, just being with each other, you know, connecting on as many ways that you can.
Community's a truth,
and being service in any way as possible. Like, we went out the other day and we just set up some drums and we set up a hand pan and stuff like that, and we just beautified the area. We took a rug out and put some flowers around and that, and we were just playing the music, but it was with the conscious idea to bring happiness and joy and raise the vibration. And the people we were interacting with, you know, you could see they were having a laugh and a smile, or some of them were standing around and that, and just do everything with the intention of, you know, raising the vibration when you can. Obviously, don't put too much on yourself as well.
And the point, that's what acceptance is, isn't it? Like, not forcing having to be positive all the time, just surrendering, allowing it to be. And I think that comes from like mindfulness practices and stuff. Like, when you start doing those practices, you realize that I'm something greater than like the thoughts and the emotions that are coming through me.
Being like water, Bruce Lee's famous saying. Be like water, my friend, because water can adapt to any situation. It's always still. It can, even when it's not still, it always comes to a place of stillness at some point at the end.
That's it.
You know, it doesn't matter what journey it goes on, it'll always find its way.
It takes on and
it can take on any form. You know, I think that water's a
nailed it.
Great teacher.
So I've just got on there as well. I've got the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening, and I think that that's a lot of the reason that we're seeing all this suppression and stuff in right now. Like in the prophecies and in the book, they mention at this time, and you know, this era of this age is the time when consciousness is remembering that we're part of a collective, and we are just temporary in these bodies, in these vehicles, but we are part of a greater picture. And I think that the people behind, you know, some of the current affairs and stuff like that, I think they're well aware of the Great Awakening and this age, and I think that that's where all this extra suppression is coming from. They obviously, through masonry and stuff like that, they go into astral realms, they're aware of the non-physical realms, and they're trying to keep all that separate and keep us just in our physical understandings and in our isolated material understandings. And the age is upon us where we're starting to expand from that.
Anything you want?
Well, you know, there are beings that are on this plane that are, you know, controlling us, and you know, they have been doing for a very long time. I just feel that once we all connect, it's not even something that's worth focusing on really, because once we all unite and raise our consciousness and bring more light down to earth, because of the light beings that we are, you know, connecting, making that channel, then these other beings, because they won't enjoy being on the earth. It'll be too much for them. It'll be too much for them. They won't enjoy it. They'll self-destruct, or they'll leave. Eventually.
Okay.
I think
my thoughts.
I like that. It's beautiful.
It makes sense as well, because obviously everyone operates in certain frequency bandwidths, right? Like, in terms of like what you're seeing at the moment, and when you're conscious of like the bigger picture and what's happening, you're like, wow, oh my gosh, like everything's actually in place. Like
it's in place. Yeah.
The whole, you can see the whole plan of what they're trying. I mean, it's happened for a lot of years now. You know, with some of these CIA and these sorts of bodies. I mean, it's happened before that, but that's, particularly the last 50 years, that's kind of the direction it's taken, where they perform psychological studies on people to be able to manipulate them and stuff. And with everything in creation, you can either use it for good or for bad, for white magic or for black magic, for light, for dark, to help or to hinder, right? Like that intention is up to us. And so some people obviously don't have good intentions, right? Like you can be a good bloke or a bad bloke or whatever it is, right? And you know, what we're seeing is those certain people in power, BG being one of them, you know, getting involved in what's going on, and what he, you know, he's leading is this movement of transhumanism, and this is what we're seeing through the left as well. And it completely surprised me once I've, you know, seen it for the first time, because I was completely oblivious. But what you're seeing is this digression into removing spirituality, removing the core essence of this spirit that we have within us, and connection to divine source or higher power, combined with the idea of like suppressing this concept of like masculine and feminine, and to basically, I guess, have us in a complete state of ego-based control, full control, almost in closest to technology, closest to artificial intelligence, and
that's it with the Neuralink and stuff like that, and it's really taking control.
Right, and the disconnection.
And the thing is,
that's spirit.
And in its own right, it is okay. And unfortunately, people who have been socially conditioned, are still stuck in that conditioning, see it as a great opportunity only. Which it can be if the people behind it have good intentions. But we know that the people behind it don't actually have good intentions because of things that they might have said in a TEDx talk or things that they might have spoken about here and there, right? So when you realise that they're planning all these things, and then they show episodes of Black Mirror that literally completely align with the direction they want to take society, and then you understand this notion of preemptive conditioning. With the fact that Snapchat started bringing out mask filters last year for like the first time, so everyone's got these mask filters on, which is then priming their subconscious mind to be okay with the fact of masks coming in. And you're like, this stuff. I didn't just watch one YouTube video to see this. You know what I mean? Like, I went through years of life. And you guys a lot more, right? You see a lot, and then you do your own deductive reasoning and your own intuitive guidance and impulses, and then just seeing that, like, you know, too much stuff doesn't add up here, and too much stuff is hidden in plain sight.
Inner gurus are all like alarm bells. Something's not right. You know, there's not many people who will say, "Oh it all seems so hunky dory."
It's all good.
Like,
there are a few which are scary.
Yeah, but you can see in them that do you know what? How I see it, a really interesting way to say whether people doubt themselves or not. Is if you are having a discussion about something and they get angry or triggered. Right. If somebody's angry or triggered about a discussion that you're having them with, that means that they're doubting their own belief. Now, if somebody questioned you and you were absolutely certain about the belief that you hold, you wouldn't be angry about it. You'd just be like, it's the truth. Now, if you doubt the truth but you believe it, and somebody tells you, somebody questions that, then it makes you angry and you get triggered. I've noticed this more and more and more when it comes to it's just an observation that I've made that when people are not sure about the truth, then they get angry, they get triggered. And I've noticed this especially when it comes to people, when it comes to like there's this like dissonance that comes over where there is like, even if there was truth presented, it would not be right. And there's like this agitation.
It doesn't fit in with the belief system.
Exactly.
And instead of holding space for it to go, okay, I'm going to fully accept that idea as a separate from my belief system, and then later on see if it integrates. There's none of that. It just triggers like a jerk in response.
What it triggers psychologically is actually that threat response, that this person is a threat to my survival. They're part of the out group, and they don't believe like what about they. And then when you go to a bus stop and then you see what they put up on the advertising,
fear campaign.
It's like anyone who doesn't believe or agree with the narrative
is literally
automatically an enemy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right. That's how they played it as well, haven't they?
Primed, and
it's literally with the COVID thing at the moment. It's played out like that. You know, it's all the fear stuff on the bus stops and all that. You know, anyone not complying is a threat to your life.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. Well, that's how they've managed to pull it off quite well, really.
Yeah.
Because we're not denying there's no virus there. No, there's not. Majority of people aren't. Majority
I've had it. Like people have had it. Like
people aren't denying it.
Yeah.
It's the way that it's being used for manipulation. Because if they were truly cared, if the government truly cared about our health, they would be encouraging us to stay calm.
Yeah, stay calm.
Stay calm.
Keep the gyms open.
Keep the gym. Look after yourselves, and make sure you eat lots of healthy food and veg. Are you getting any of that?
Complete opposite. No.
Fear.
You're getting fight
or flight response.
Pretend that you've got it.
Yes, you know.
But if you look into like epigenetics and stuff like this, and
placebo
and all this, then you're
cursing yourself.
You're creating
it. Yeah.
The thing is as well with fear, and I've talked about this when I've done my BBC Radio Merseyside interview about the indirect effect of fear on our immune system. Like the study.
Pretty direct.
This is no conspiracy theory.
Of course.
There are studies.
Pure science.
Pure science.
I mean, look at Wim Hof.
It's pure science, and the nervous system is our direct connection from our brain's signals to our immune system. Without that if the nervous system is under any kind of duress, then the signals can't be communicated to our immune system to fight off infections or inflammation. So there is there's actually studies on that. So if they really, really, really did care about us, they would know these health experts know that stress has an effect on our immune system. Fear, what these people aren't in, every single day pumping out all these mixed stories. 1 minute it's going, next thing it's not.
Clashing.
1 minute it's going,
just
another thing it's not. It's gaslighting.
It's gaslighting. So people think it's best to be cautious and stay safe and do all the precautions because I don't know, because there's too much information bombarded.
Even when this is all over, there will still be people that are walking around terrified with masks on.
It's so sad.
It is sad because some people will never recover from it because they will be so traumatized. They'll feel like they're doing something wrong all the time because because it's been quite a while of it now. It's like they do this in it's like MK Ultra style interrogation. Where it's like these things are drilled into your head. So finally you just admit to it.
This is practiced in the likes of Jonestown and stuff, which people say. People say that Jim Jones was actually linked to the CIA and stuff like that, and they were running the cult there, and obviously 900 of them drank the Kool-Aid
at the same time,
and they all died. But what they were doing in Jonestown is that they were repeating. So they had like 24-hour speakers set up, repeating messages 24-hour to keep people in fear, and they'd wake them up in the night and get them all to come together in fear of, and they were just keeping them in a fear program, and now I'm looking at society and I'm seeing so much comparisons with cults to our culture.
It is.
And there we go, culture.
It's interesting that you say that, because I had experiences myself with an association of practitioners. This was a spiritual organisation as well, where this kind of not exactly the same but cult-like behaviour, and the way that everybody who was on this particular course that I was on, and this person who was leading it that was like manipulating people in these, like using these techniques, the dark arts, it's black magic. That's what they're doing. Same thing. And everybody was, and that she even admitted in front of all of the students that were there on this course that she had been manipulating using energy on other courses. And there was one course where she put greed into the intention for everyone, to experiment to see how people would change, and everyone was being greedy, eating the food on the dinners, like eating more than usual. She told all of the students, and every single one of the students was just blinkered And I was like,
what, that didn't alarm bells?
No.
They were in such a state of hypnosis
in the hypnosis from it, that she was testing them.
To see if they were in a hypnosis.
To see if they were in it. And I was like, wow, I wasn't in full obviously, but then I'd seen it all. But then I'd witnessed that happen, and then I see that what's happening now. People look like walking around Asda.
Yeah.
People are in this hypnosis.
Oh, it's a true hypnosis.
So,
you could come with any information. You could Boris Johnson could walk up to them himself and say, "Look, we've overdone it. You know, it was all an experiment. It was this and that," and they would still not believe it.
And it's a hypnosis.
And when people understand like the nature of human behaviour and that how it works is like when you watch the TV, and a lot of people use TV as the only form of escape from their thoughts, right? So people sit there and they watch the TV just to relax what's going on upstairs, and you're obviously watching these things called programs, and you know, you can dive into that, but what's happening is that the picture that's being put out is actually triggering an alpha brainwave frequency in your brain, which actually starts to get you into that state of hypnosis, because the thinking mind, the conscious mind, operates in beta, right? And then as you start to move from beta to alpha and even into theta, but you probably won't get there when you're watching the TV, but what happens is you start to absorb the information into the areas of your brain that pick up the information before your conscious part, the prefrontal cortex, has the opportunity to interact with it. But because you've got into that level of frequency, the beta operating thing, the thinking mind, the one that the critical thinking mind, doesn't question what you're getting through. So when you're watching
it's just coming
BBC
through.
all in red, and then you have like this big emergency flash of like danger, that is being programmed straight into your subconscious mind, and that is wiring a trace of like a trace is so strong that can't be undone by any amount of critical thinking. So, and then when you see those signs, and my partner, who's like she's a qualified hypnotherapist, like she goes, what they're doing with the messaging is they're going, stay home, save lives, protect whatever, right? That nature of the three with three short impactful statements is very much what hypnotists do. And no matter what you do in terms of like what you bring to the party in terms of like rational based thinking, it doesn't solve the problem. Because the deeper level of mind is
the psyche has been taken by that, and we can really see that in a lot of people. You know, a lot of people that I speak to, and they've really shut down in a lot of ways, and it's sad because it's constant. Like you go to the cash machine and it says on the cash machine, you know, stay home, save lives. It's red. The bus says it on the side of the bus. It's
repetition.
It's so Orwellian, and like, you know, just these repetitive symbols, and it's unbelievable really that we're going, you know, it's quite a shock that we're going through this, you know. I didn't think, I knew something was coming.
Didn't think it'd be right now.
I knew it was soon, but not to this extent.
I knew something was coming as well. I knew there was going to be a lot of before 2025.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody could have predicted it was going to be like this.
Not like this.
So fun.
Not so well orchestrated as well.
Give
credit to that.
It's like
not that I admire it.
No.
From an observational point of view, you well done. No, but
That's clever. Clever. It's tried and tested.
But it's been practiced over hundreds of years, exactly.
It's not a new.
It's not a new thing.
No,
it's just that we've got the new technologies.
That's the dark arts adapt from sitting in front of a spell book and candles,
and also
to a black screen.
That's the same thing.
And the old modality was war. Now, why would you have war with two countries where like one's going to survive and one's going to die when you can actually just affect everybody? Right, with something biological. And I mean, they've been talking about it for ages now. It's pretty much been in the armory. But I remember, because my awakening was only like February a year ago, and one of the visions I saw was this point where there was actually a representation of a war between light and dark. And I assumed that would be happening at like the end of the decade. And thinking, like there's some time to prepare for it or whatever, and then bang, straight away, you're straight in it. And it's weird because it's not a physical fight, but it's one that's happening on a level of like at the mind level.
It's a war on consciousness.
On a psychological
war on consciousness.
It
is. It's happening on the psyche and within the spirit as well. You know. 100%.
So what are some keys to recover or to overcome some of these spells.
Yeah.
Well, love, like I said before, love is like no spells can affect you when you're in love. I never mean in love with someone else.
When you're in that state of
love, not at peace. You know, being peaceful and peace and it's like the typical thing. And I'm not really. I've never really been known to be a peace and love and like just like, you know, that kind of person,
kind of thing.
But it does. Like, you know, that's not saying, you know, ignore the, you know, your shadows and things. You can't like deny it.
What's going on?
But bring peace and love to your shadows.
Exactly.
Exactly. And don't get in that fear state, because
it's an illusion all at the end of the day. But the only real truth is love, really.
Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion.
Everything is love. Really, underneath it all, everything is love. And then when you're in that state of like, none of it exists. It disappears because the truth, like, it's an illusion, and when the illusion is exposed with the truth, it evaporates. It goes. It doesn't. It can't affect you anymore. It's not feeding into it. And also as well, being a victim to it.
That's what I was going to say actually. Because there's two sides. So there's the side where people are being hypnotised and all that and mind controlled by the fear campaign that's going on with the COVID stuff. But then there's the other side of the people who know what's going on and the agendas, but they're still staying in the victimhood of it, and they're still perpetuating it, and they're components of the force that's driving it, as well as the people who are asleep and don't understand what's going on.
More so, perhaps.
So it's more so, perhaps, So it's once you bring in that element of love and eradicate that element of fear and start expressing love and sharing it, other people pick up on that vibration.
They do. So it's interesting, like how I was watching this film the other day called Jacob's Ladder. I've seen it before. It's an old film, like psychological thriller, but there was a really interesting quote on there because this guy's experiencing, he's seeing, it's like he's going through schizophrenia after like trauma from the war, and he was like seeing things, and I watched it, I revisited it again because I kind of related to it. But then there's somebody in the film that gives him advice, and he says, the only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't get let go of life, your memories and attachments. They burn them all away, but they're not punishing you, he said, they're freeing your soul. So if you're frightened of dying, you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. So it's when you, even all of it, like it's even with me, my story with the shamans who were dark and, you know, putting these black magic on me, but really they helped me more than I could ever think. So are they really that dark?
Exactly.
They're playing their part in
their part in this drama.
Elements of
to help you to fulfill.
But there's growth in it. So they're really, if you want to think about it, they're angels. And it's like this darkness. You know they talk. You know the Satan, Lucifer, and stuff. Like Lucifer in the story is the light bringer.
Light bearer.
And it's not something to be, you know, even though it plays a role, a dark and you know quite, you know, sinister role in things. Actually, it's that side of it that brings us to the.
Well, we're in a dualistic, you know, plane, aren't we, at the moment, and that's where we're at. But do you think that the Great Awakening to you? Do you think that means to transcend? Would it be a mass transcending of this duality realm that we're in?
No, because I think we're always going to be in this dualistic realm because we have free will. But at the distortion and the rules that have kind of took over this reality that we're in, I think there will be a time that comes for them where we can live in a place where we're just full of creation. You know, just focusing on creation and a golden era, which we can create because at the end of the day, their agendas and their beliefs are all illusionary. When we're in a light of truth and the earth is full of that, that can't exist anymore. So I think there will be periods, maybe not in this lifetime, I don't know, but there will be periods, I think, in the future where we will be in a place where the earth will be a place of just creation.
I think holding that, I think that the key and sort of one of the answers definitely is to hold that love and hold that hope, and even if sometimes you do get stuck in what's going on or whatever, just hold it, even if you feel like it's a blind faith.
Even if blind faith is
keep it.
It is because it
keep it.
Definitely. I think faith's really important. It is, and you know they talk about this a lot in religious texts.
Well, faith is trust, isn't it?
It's trust. Faith is trust, and faith that, and at the end of the day, you know, we know that faith in medicine sometimes can help to heal us, make things better, like placebo. We talked about this before. You know, if we can have faith that something's going to heal us, then why can't we have faith that the earth's going to get better? Because if we're all creators and, you know, we can manifest things, well, we can all manifest a golden era on earth. Why can't we? The only reason we can't is if we don't believe we can.
That's it.
So
that is it. And we did that in the workshop, right? Like,
and it comes back to that we are all responsible.
Exactly.
We are all, and it's coming back to the inner guru.
Well, it's responsible for taking care of our own
and what we're putting out there.
The analogy that came to me was like, it's a massive puzzle, and each one of us are a jigsaw piece, and we all need to fit together in pieces of the jigsaw. And as each of us just focus on ourselves and the immediate environment being like, you know, the edges and how they fit into the next things, the picture will then come together. And that's what it is. It's just one person at a time, one small community at a time, attaching as like jigsaws, and then eventually you get to that critical threshold where you're like, oh my gosh, I know how to put all this thing together now. And that's how it works. And like, there is a critical mass and a critical threshold, because, you know, when you see those scientific experiments where the clocks come into resonance, all those tickers and stuff like that, it's the same thing with consciousness, because, you know, it all operates in a similar archetypal way. So same thing with that is, you get what you focus on. So the idea is shift what you're focusing on, rather than seeing it as like the end of the world and this being awful, seeing this as more of an opportunity. Right? So
vision boards. We did vision boards the other day, and it was, I remember this time last year, because I always do my cleanses. I do my combo cleanse and I do my detox in January, and then do visions for what I'm going to do that year. I remember this time last year thinking, it wasn't even that much of a strong vision. It was just, wouldn't it be nice to have somewhere to work from? Because I was like just doing combo treatments and things in people's houses, in my house. Didn't have this place. It was an idea, and I thought, I'm going to keep my eye open for a shop, somewhere to do it. 12 months down the line, got this place up and running. It's, you know, like, and I would never have believed that I could have done that in the space of a year.
Small spaces.
Now, that's how powerful we can be as creators when we open something up as a possibility. Because in the quantum field, everything is either a possibility or probability. Okay, the more we focus on things, the more probable it becomes. So if we can align with something that we want to create, then possibility can become probabilities. So anything is possible, but we also that not everything is probable. But the more we align with it, the more probable it becomes. So I think that when a good tip for people, if they wanted to, you know, do something useful in the time as well, it'd be to create vision boards of what they want to create, not just for yourself, but also what you want to create for the world.
100%.
Start with a list and then a vision board and all those different activities. Think, oh, what would I like in my life? Because as you said about the quantum field, is what quantum physics is starting to realize is that, like, this universe is less solid and real as it seems, and more about how we perceive it, and there's an infinite number of ways that it can be perceived, and then it's almost like you're in a shopping catalogue. So what you're asking for, you're actually setting like the intention of, oh, I would like that, and then what you want to do is you want to match your operating state to one that's ready to receive it. That's why gratitude's so important, because if you're not grateful for what you've got, how do you deserve what you want?
What you want, because you won't be grateful for that.
Exactly. So that thing will come towards you when you're ready to experience it, right? For example, if you want to be a boss, and if you want to be in the position of your boss, you act as if you are that person, right? You emulate what they do, you be who they are, you do what they do, and you'll get the results that they have. It's a very simple formula that you can all do, and just have a play around with it. Like, you know, it's pretty cool. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Probably because you didn't trust it, right? And believe in it, and you counteracted it with your resonance. And we all do that, like, you know, but funnily enough, and testaments are in place that when you do it and you let go of that need for it to like come immediately, and you're just like, it will come, and you just enjoy
no rush for
and take your focus off of that outcome, like it needs to be this way, and just think more about like,
you let it go, you have to put it out there,
you just drop it in,
you have to drop it in,
and that's it.
It comes back,
and then next thing it's in, and you forgot about it, and it's in.
That's what you're focused on, the process of just living,
and it can happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again when you're in that state of love.
It does.
That's it, and that's the answer. That is the answer. So
good.
That was lovely. Yeah, very nice.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Mate, pleasure. That was
Cheers,
fun.
man. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Nice one.
Cheers.
That was a 2-hour marathon.
I know.
Mate.
Is that a 2
My
hour?
bum is sore.
I was thinking, I can't do it.